The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Oh my God, we're late again. But that's okay, because we were thinking the Canucks need to acquire Tyrese Haliburton, or they need to make the other JT Miller trade all over again. Now let's talk about it on Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into the show, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks, because it is your Canucks every damn day. And we're not here without you tuning in, and we're also not here without those sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, okay? Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Not only are the NHL playoffs in full swing, more on that later, because Oilers, but the NBA playoffs are also in full swing. And one name that casual fans might know even is Tyrese Haliburton. So let's get a bit into that situation. More specifically, can the Canucks find the next Tyrese Haliburton? Because this guy got traded as a promising youngster, and now he is a rock star in the NBA. But first and foremost, let me introduce my co-host, who is also a rock star. Cal Bowen, what's going on, brother?
Thanks, dude. I'm a rock star. Let's try making that trade, Trevor. Let's try ripping somebody off, okay? Way back when, Tyrese Haliburton, a rookie. If we want to bring this up into like the NHL terms, remember the Philip Forsberg trade, right? Way back when, Philip Forsberg, a rookie, gets traded for Martin Erat, right? Because Washington wanted to win now. Well, back in the day, Tyrese Haliburton gets traded for some guy named Sabonis, who's pretty good too, don't get me wrong, but more of a win now move for a bad team in Sacramento who just wasn't thinking straight. And this got me thinking, okay, can the Canucks and Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin, because I feel as if, it's one of the only ways they can really fix this issue ASAP and, convince Quinn Hughes that this is the place you want to stay. Can they rip off a team? Can they, and this sounds crazy because, I think Filip Hronek's a better player than Martin Erat, but he's pretty much on the same level as Sabonis when it comes to overall ratings in the video games. Like, can they flip a guy like that for a franchise-altering player some way and in some fashion? And again, Trevor, it involves ripping off a team.
100%, right? And look, we've seen it happen in the NHL before. The big old rip-off trade. I mean, the extreme is obviously Forsberg for Erat, and the Tyrese Haliburton trade, like you alluded to, wasn't as bad, but it involved trading a promising 21-year-old in his second season in the NBA for a team that was kind of middle of the pack, who had a good start to the season, about 50 games in. And again, if you can find that team that's kind of, toiling in mediocrity, they have a bright start to next season, maybe even towards the trade deadline, that might be the target here. So, look, I mean, let's rip through a couple names. And, one name that I did think of pretty early on in this process is Leo Carlsson of the Anaheim Ducks now. Maybe next season, again, you got to find a team that's willing to be ripped off, right? Or that you can rip off. The Anaheim Ducks have been pretty conservative, but they missed the playoffs for 7 straight seasons. They may be getting into win now mode. Now, Leo Carlsson towards the top of the food chain, recent second overall pick. But let's say next season, Trevor Zegras refines his game, Mason McTavish breaks out, maybe Leo Carlsson's the third line center. Maybe that's a situation where it could be a guy like, Filip Hronek going back the other way. I mean, Anaheim, I don't know if it's the best example because they got the young defense, but say that, again, they need some help on the back end, and Leo Carlsson not playing up the snuff. That could be a deal that could work. And, another one we kind of brainstormed. And again, the Canucks need to rip a team off. Remember that. But another example could be Juraj Slafkovsky. Again, you got a promising young forward group in Montreal. Slafkovsky has been up and down so far in his NHL career. That is a team that needs help on defense. Perhaps, again, we keep trading Filip Hronek, but maybe that's a situation where you get a top-pairing right shot demon in Filip Hronek. If Montreal starts to sour on Slafkovsky. Again, we preface the Canucks got to rip off a team to make a Haliburton type deal.
Yeah, and it's crazy to use the word rip off because, again, Again, I think Philip Hronek's a better player than Martin Erat. Right-hand defenseman, really solid. I'd give him like an 88 overall, like still a really, really strong player. But I think the Canucks, based on who they lost last year and what they ultimately need to do to get back into being a contending team, and that's, add more star elite players, like try to get another guy get to like 91 or 92 overall. It's, you got to make a move like this. And the Slafkovsky one makes a lot more sense. Now, I will say, if there's some way, shape, or form that they can get Leo Carlson, you got to make that move. I wonder if that's more so of like a Pedersen for Carlson thing. And I don't know if that makes you better next year. But again, that's a conversation for another day. But Slafkovsky, man, I'm not even the biggest fan of this guy, to be honest. Now, he showed some bright spots last year at some points, and he looks good when he's playing around better players and a former number one pick, blah, blah, blah. But now you're talking. And Rutherford and Alvin, man, I feel as if they don't have a lot more swings at this if they fail again. And it's one thing to shoot for the fences, but to have the mindset for a general manager to like go into a trade negotiation and be cerebral and not be kind and be open to ripping off a GM. Like, I know it's hard to do, but I want to play that game, Trevor. And Slafkovsky, he just seems he seems appealing. Now, again, not the biggest fan, but these are the type of moves where I feel like, or the risks the Canucks got to take.
Well, we talked about it a bit yesterday too on the Sam Bennett episode. Go check that one out if you haven't already. Florida took a risk, right? Trading, a recent second round pick and another 2 seconds for a guy in Sam Bennett who was producing like a fourth liner. So they took a risk there. And now Haliburton's not Sam Bennett because, he started strong in his NBA career and he got traded to a team who was traded away from a team in Sacramento who was trying to win now. So again, you do got to find a team that's kind of desperate. And, it makes you think of a couple other of names potentially. I'll drop a couple more here, but let's talk about Marco Kasper with the Detroit Red Wings. The Canucks need help at center ice. The Red Wings, obviously if they keep Larkin, they have their number one center for the future. Is there a path there to get a guy like Marco Kasper out of Detroit, where he had a pretty good season overall? I mean, ironically, they need help on defense, even though they traded away Philip Hronek. So, I mean, maybe there could be a reunion there. It would be the first time something like that has happened. But again, Detroit should be desperate. Eisman has proven not to be the smartest GM in Detroit. That could be a GM that you could potentially take advantage of here, which is crazy to say because he was one of the GOATs among GMs a couple of years back, but here we are.
Yeah, and the Kasper thing, that would be something, Trevor. That would be something because you got to take advantage of these mediocre teams who think they're like almost there. Now, how about this one? How about you go to Columbus and you wrote about this on our Substack? Okay, go join it. Link in the bio. Begsy and Bowen. Ken Johnson. Now, Columbus, again, they did good last year, and they faced a lot of injuries, and one love to the Gaudreau family and that loss, and, they arguably didn't have their best forward going into the season because of the most unfortunate of circumstances. And here I am saying that they could be two things. They could be ahead of schedule based on how they played and the amount of effort that they had last year, or they could, be a team that exceeded expectations. But at the same time, now you got an organization that may think, they're a right-handed defenseman away from being really good. And they have a surplus of forwards. They're talented. They're young, right? So based on the value and how much, again, teams put an importance on the right-handed defenseman, I wonder if they would do something, and you probably have their depth chart in front of you, but I wonder if they would do something like Kent Johnson for Philip Hronek. And I'm stealing that from you. Again, you wrote about this a couple days ago, but that's what gets me thinking, because Columbus, sympathy aside, that's a mediocre franchise.
Yeah,
and you look at what Sacramento did when they traded Haliburton. They just thought they were ahead of schedule, and they made a crazy move that didn't work out. You look at Washington, 10 years ago, 11 years ago? I don't know if Martin Erat was on the Stanley Cup winning team back in like 2018 or 20, whatever year it was, whatever, right? But they were a team that was good in the regular season but struggled in the playoffs, and they thought Martin Erat would help them get over the top. And they traded Philip Forsberg for that guy, right? So does Columbus think they're a piece away?
Yeah, and I mean, again, I mentioned it before. Zach Werenski, one of the best defensemen in the league, obviously top 3 Norris votes this season. After that, it does get a little bit thin. I think Provorov was fine. Fabro had a bit of a bounce back there, but Severson's been disappointing, and then they got Gabranson there too. So they could use another guy, and they were one of the most permissive teams in the NHL this season, right? So, I mean, look, they got a young guy like Denton Matachuk coming up, but he profiles as more of that offensive guy, a little smaller, whereas, a guy like Hronek would certainly give them another element on the back end in terms of being a better shutdown team. So, yeah, I like Kent Johnson as a comparable. Of course, bring the BC Bud home, man. We're a big fan of the BC Buds here on the West Coast. And maybe I'll name drop a couple other names before we wrap up the segment here on Locked On Canucks. But, these are some smaller names. I'll mention 2 lesser names and then a bigger name. But, I got Jackson Blake with the Carolina Hurricanes. Let's say Carolina, they bow out in 4 or 5 games to Florida. Maybe they get desperate, right? I've mentioned it before, but a guy like Brett Burns retiring. Of course, they got a young guy like Scott Morrow coming up, Alexander Nichushkin, although I believe Nichushkin might be a lefty. But regardless, you got some guys there you got your top pairing defenseman who may retire after the season, or at the very least, he's 40 years old. Maybe there's a move there to get a guy like Jackson Blake, not Seth Jarvis, but Jackson Blake out of Carolina. I'd look at a guy like Zach Bolduc, really good young forward on the St. Louis Blues, almost hit 20 goals this season. They obviously, I think they had some magic in a bottle this season on defense, but, they had guys like Torrey Krug didn't play, Nick Leddy retiring, or Nick Leddy barely playing. Cam Fowler's older as well. Colton Pranga's in his 30s. Maybe that's a situation where a guy like Phil Pronik could step in for a guy like Zach Bolduc.
That could be something, man. Options. I'm thinking a lot about Ken Johnson right now. Like, I'm falling in love with that. Because, again, I think Philip Pronik is good, man. I think he's really good. I think he's strong. I think he's got cachet around the league. Again, when I have children, I'm going to make sure they become right-handed. I'm going to chop off their left. No, I'm not going to chop off no. No. I'm sorry. But all I'm saying is, and we'll get to this more on the other side with another type of trade that the Canucks could make, but the Canucks need to, rip off a team to make next year really count. They really, that's their safety net. Right? For things to be different, it's like they have to make a move that nobody saw coming and that they ultimately win. Anyways, more on the other side. We'll talk some more trades. Some people don't want to, again, they don't want to trade Philip Pronik. I get it. It is what it is. And more on the whole basketball thing, too, because Don Taylor, man, he's got the most popular tweet in Canada. Straight up. Anywho, Trevor, who we shouting out?
All right, we'll pause for a break here on Locked On Canucks. Before we get back to it, let's shout out our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and the same with the NHL playoffs. And every night is delivering highlight-worthy performances, except from guys like Stuart Skinner, okay? Wah, wah, wah. Whether it's a game-winning shot, a break, or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Kyle, what do you think is happening tonight? Florida, Carolina, game 2. Florida's going to sweep the road to start the series, or does Carolina come back with a dub?
I think Carolina comes back with a dub. I want to give all the credit to Florida because I think they're really good and they could win this series in 5 games. But Carolina, for the first time in their last 13 conference finals games, will win a game. That's an unbelievable stat. They've lost 13 straight Eastern Conference Finals games.
They got to do it. This is the year where they win at least one conference finals games, but maybe they won't win more than that. So you heard it from Kyle. Plays a few bucks on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. But whatever you're betting on, make sure you do it on FanDuel. It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. And man, oh man, the comments are going off, and they're making me think. And one comment's making me think that, yo, we're trading Haliburton way too early. Like, why don't we think about another Canuck that has exceeded expectations, okay? Dan Jardine saying, pretty much, I'm not going to read the whole comment, but it's like, why not leverage Garland in a trade being, that piece that a lot of teams want in their team to take them over the top, right? Keep Haliburton, make sure the D is strong. Everyone knows if you have a strong D, the lady in life will be satisfied, man. It's 4-year anniversary coming up. I hope, dude, my D, man, let's just say I'm walking around Shoppers Drug Mart with some confidence, okay, right now? It is, I love you, babe. Where am I going with this? Oh, yeah. So keep the D strong. Don't trade Hronek, trade Garland. Does Garland have any cachet around the league, Trevor? Do you think he does? I mean, he's ripping it up at the World Hockey Championships. He's playing incredible, but you're one of those nerds. If you look at his fancy stats and my eye test, the guy, pretty much every time he hits the ice, the puck's around him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a good fancy stat player, and teams would want that.
Yo, Kyle, I remember early on in this show, we talked about how it would be a mistake if the Canucks traded Connor Garland when his name was in the rumors, as early as the 23-24 season and even during that offseason. Now I think it's a bit of a different story because even what Dan's alluding to, I think he had an interview with Donnie and Dolly where he was very mum on returning to Vancouver, talked about liking the city, but I signed this contract for a reason. And he seemed a bit non-committal about wanting to come back to Vancouver. Hard to blame the guy. But I think now it does make some sense to look at him as a trade piece now. To get Travis Konechny out of Philly, I said that this would be a bit of a pipe dream. But, I mean, I think it's got to start with Garland in this year's first. And I think I would do that in a heartbeat if Philly would do it. But I think it's going to take even more than that now. Mm-hmm. Maybe, just maybe, spitballing for Philly fans here. You trade Travis Konechny, a fan favorite. Like, you are pretty much going in for Gavin McKenna in next year's draft. And maybe that's the play, man. I don't think that's the case, but I mean, yeah, I think more realistic for Philly is trading Artur Shilovs or Thatcher Demko to them. I don't see that being realistic from the Canucks perspective, but you could argue that Philly needs goaltending more than any other team in the league. I mean, that guy that used to play there who's in the sexual assault trial, him leaving put a hole in their lineup. Urson hasn't been a starter, and the other guys have really struggled at the NHL level. So they desperately need goaltending. If you're going to get Konechny out of Philly, it's probably going to take Thatcher Demko.
Dude, how about Demko, Garland in a first for Travis Konechny? Are you doing that?
That's rich. Oh my God.
How is that rich though? Like you don't know what Demko. Okay, how about not the first? How about Garland but Demko? Does he have any value? Like he's injured all the time.
I think other teams would value him drastically different. Philly might be a team who would value him more because they need goaltending. Like if they're going to compete, I don't think they can roll the season with Erson and Fedotov and I forget the third goalie's name there. But I mean, it wasn't pretty in Philly this year. They had the worst goaltending in the league. Unless they're trying to tank for Gavin McKenna, they need better goaltending.
Yo, that's a way to rip off a team. And honestly, all the luck to Thatcher Demko. I love how he has so much drive to be a Vancouver Canuck. Like he wants to extend this summer because I think he actually bleeds blue and green. But leveraging any sort of swag / cachet that guy has, any sort of value that he has, in a trade to get that piece you need in your top six that actually becomes a home run, like the next Tyrese Haliburton would be something else. Okay, next comment. And Mother Knocker is saying this, and we've gotten a lot of this, okay, over the last couple days, okay? Our defense, our D, is finally close to being top tier, something we've wanted since 2011, and we're willing to dismantle it. Yo, Mother Knocker. Dude, Teddy Blueger's a number 2 center. I don't know. I don't know. Is Filipino a winger? Like, I'm just saying. They're missing pieces, and right now the D is strong. Like Valentino Martini Mancini III, this guy's looking incredible in the AHL playoffs. Like he's looking fantastic. We already saw what DP to look like, and I'm about to listen to the episode of Chris Faber and Tom Willander talking. And Willander, top 11 talent, Mr. 17,000. I don't know, he has a lot of confidence. maybe there's a replacement for Filip Hronek already in the system. And, something's got to give. You got to give to get. And Filip Hronek's a trade piece here, Trevor. It is what it is. And I must add this, Trevor. Again, I'm not going to say our friends over at Goat Radio because I'm pretty sure they hate us since I talked a lot of shit about them back in like November when they started the whole JT Miller to the Rangers thing, because they did. They're the first ones. Before Paul Bissonnette, before anyone else, it was Goat Radio, okay? And I was wrong. I thought they were clickbaiting and, trying to get some attention. But they were right. They were right. Their reports were true. And now they're reporting that the Canucks are shopping Filip Hronek. Okay, we did it first. Trevor Beggs did it first a couple days ago, but now they're saying it too. I'm telling you right now, I think there's a 51% chance that Filip Hronek gets traded.
Weird conspiracy theory here, but maybe they got it from us. That's how rumors spread in midday, man. But no, I think regardless, I see where Mother Knucker's coming from because you're right. I mean, you could argue this is the best Canuck defense since 2011. But the problem is they were second last in chances generated. They were second last in goals. I mean, they were abysmal offensively. Like only the Chicago, think about it. Only the Chicago Blackhawks fired less pucks on net, got less scoring chances than the Vancouver Canucks. The San Jose Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks, the Seattle Kraken, the bottom of the barrel in the NHL, the Buffalo Sabres, the Boston Bruins, the Philadelphia Flyers. These teams generated more than the Vancouver Canucks this season. So, I mean, yeah, sure, great. It's amazing that we have this defense now. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're not going to really go far.
Hey.
You'd be hard-pressed to make the playoffs if you're going to be second last in goals scored. And we'll talk about it on tomorrow's episode. There's a reason to believe there might be a bit of a bump next year. But they're likely going to have to add someone because just asking or hoping that Hedl and Pettersson stay healthy and get back to the levels that we believe they're capable of is asking a lot. And even then some, you're probably still bottom 10.
Oh, yeah, Trevor. And come on, right? Trevor, like, what are we? We're human beings, man. Like Mother Knucker. Join the Discord. You learn a lot about Mother Knucker. 18+ Discord, okay? For real. You should know this first, man. But if you have a strong D, but you don't have an O, right? You don't have an O. You know what I'm saying, Trevor? You know what the O is, right? You don't have an O. Yeah. You don't have a miracle. And the Canucks need a miracle right now, and it is what it is. And I know we're rambling, and I don't want to get to my other trade idea, like I guess on the other side, and how they're going to fix this hole down the middle. But Trevor, like, can you please talk about Valentino Mancini III, okay? Because just as much as Elias Pettersson surprised us, based on how good he was ASAP, I'm starting to believe that Valentino Mancini III was the biggest piece of that JT Miller trade because based on his athletic ability, his poise, again, not the perfect defenseman. He's a bit of a wild card. Sometimes he reminds me of like Shane Gostisbehere. He's just like having fun out there. But I didn't know he had that in him because when we immediately got him, I was like, okay, this guy's like Derek Forbort, right? Career 7th defenseman, 6th defenseman. But something's telling me that this guy may have like top 4 potential, man. And that makes the Hronek thing a little different.
Yeah, and I think that's something you don't want to bank on, right? But the Canucks don't necessarily have to bank on it. With Willander and Filip Hronek in the hole, and Tyler Myers got him signed for 2 more seasons. I mean, Victor Mancini right now doesn't even have a spot in the lineup, right? Which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. I mean, the thing about Victor Mancini is, he has a bit of a late bloomer, right? He was drafted at 20 years old. Obviously went to university a little later than that too. So, I mean, there is more runway for him than a regular 22-year-old, right? Because he's been a late bloomer. But man, oh man, if you've been watching the Avatar Canucks right now in the playoffs, he's been lights out. I think you had a good description, Kyle. Obviously he's a bit more like a big physical Shane Gostisbehere, but does like to take chances, does like to take some risks. But there's moments in these AHL playoffs where he's absolutely taking over games. And you look at him scoring from 5 feet in front of the net yesterday. Man, he's an inspiration for me and blocking, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's got the senses and he's got the eagerness to want to make things happen. And I feel like there were multiple points in the second half of the season, especially on that like last road trip where they were, traveling to the east, where I think against St. Louis and the Rangers, like he's a big reason why the Canucks got back in those games because the moment was never too big for him. He was engaged in the offense, trying to make things happen. And just to see him also show a lot of ceiling like tendencies, as opposed to like us looking at him in the AHL and in the playoffs and looking at his floor and gushing over that. Like, I'm gushing over his ceiling. I'm like, damn, this guy could be huge for us. And dude, it's again like DPD, Willander, Mancini, Martini. I know you don't want to bank on them, but I think it's easier to bank on your defense being fine, considering that again DPD showed so much promise, and you got Quinn Hughes there, like he's the support guy there, and you got Adam Foote as the head coach now. Like, maybe you can go into next season still having this really, really strong decor if you feel Peronic to fix your issues. Like, you got a gift to get, and right now the Canucks just don't have a lot of assets, and they want to extend Quinn Hughes, right? And I just think that something is going to something's going to happen here. And the GOAT Radio, again, they said it second, but I'm starting to believe that the Canucks are actually shopping Philip Peronic before his no movement kicks in.
Yeah, it's a bold move right now, but I mean the Canucks, they need a bold move to get back into contention and keep Quinn Hughes in Vancouver. I don't have to worry about getting rid of us. What? Because we'll be back here on the other side on Locked On Canucks.
Okay, we back doing this, talking about the Vancouver Canucks, having fun, bringing Tyrese Haliburton to the Vancouver Canucks, trying to rip off some NHL GMs out there, and appreciating the D, man. I've never been so high on the D before, man. For real, man. I'm sitting on. I'm banking on
the D.
No,
Nice.
I'm banking on it. I'd say I'm banking on it. I'm banking on the D being fine with or without Philip Peronic. I'm also banking on this too, Trevor, because we've done it in the past, but with another gym, and that's trading like a first and a third round pick and some dumb prospect or whatever for a guy like JT Miller. Now, we're not going to get JT Miller, but the other way we replace the hole down the middle is somehow, some way, finding a team that is stacked and needs to like let go of some cap. Because Jim Benning, years and years and years and years ago, pulled off a miracle, and that's again trading draft capital for an elite number one center. So, like, is there anyone down, like the guys you brought up earlier, like they don't fit that role because they're younger and whatnot. But is there anyone out there that you're getting for that price point? Like, is Matt Barzal a first and a third and who is that guy? Because that's the other option here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why you kind of heard the name Anthony Cirelli tossed around from the Tampa Bay Lightning, because like every season, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're up against it for the cap next season, right? They've already got, $88.5 million committed to 18 players. They don't have any huge re-signings to make. That's the thing with the cap going up, right? It's not quite the same as it's been in previous seasons. But for the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's like, Yanni Gord is up for a new contract. Like, that's something to look at too. So yeah, Anthony Cirelli is one that's kind of been tossed about here in Vancouver. I have to get back to the rest. The Detroit Red Wings, ironically, are a team that's dealing with some cap issues for not being a very great team overall. The St. Louis Blues are up there and committed salary for next season, which I find interesting for a team that's, I mean, they've had the problems with how they've allocated money on their defense for such a long time now, but they're basically capped out heading into next season, which is interesting for them.
How about this though? Okay, this one's random. I'm trying to fix some issues down the middle, and this guy's too old to compare to like the Miller side of things, and I wonder if you're giving up less to get him, but you probably are. But it's like guys like Ryan O'Reilly or Evgeny Malkin.
Damn, Evgeny Malkin, eh? Yeah, I mean, I don't think Ryan O'Reilly's coming to Canada, right? No trade clause.
Oh, yeah,
he has said his piece about that.
Mm-hmm.
Malkin would be interesting. With Pittsburgh, obviously, they're nowhere near contention. It's just a matter of, do Crosby, Malkin, and Letang want to seek out other opportunities, or do they just want to play out the rest of their days together on a crappy team? Like, that's really what it comes down to in Pittsburgh. But
yeah, Trevor, it's crazy how I brought up Evgeny Malkin, And that's why the Islanders are so appealing, because they got Horvat and Barzal, right? And it's Gavin McKenna coming in next year, and they're retooling their whole organization. And now Brendan Shanahan gets let go of the Leafs. He's probably going to take over the Islanders. Maybe he starts over another Shanaplan. And remember what he did in year one of the Shanaplan? They tanked it for Austin Matthews. So there's a good chance that the Islanders do the same. So to me, it's like the Islanders are the number one option if the Canucks want to fix their center depth help. But I feel like everyone's going to be gunning for Barzal and Horvat, for real. All that being said, I mentioned getting Malkin because I'm looking at the NHL standings and I'm reading the team depth charts, and there's nobody available. Like Larkin, Horvat, Barzal are the only centers like openly probably available via trade to fix these issues. There's just too much parity. There's too much parity, and teams like Chicago, San Jose, I guess maybe you could rip off Buffalo. Who's down the middle? Does Peterka play center? Hey, we didn't say this. How about ripping off Buffalo for what's the guy's name? Thompson. Tage Thompson. I don't know, but there's so much parity around the league, and it's kind of like blocking up some major trades. It really is.
It's not going to be easy for the Canucks, man, but we'll be here on Locked On Canucks trying to find all of the solutions, buddy. I'm not sure if you're ripping off Buffalo for Tage Thompson, although I was surprised that they traded Cousins for Josh Norris. That one did surprise me. So, hey, never say never, man. Never say never. And, Buffalo, 14 years of missing the playoffs. Man, oh, man, they haven't made the dance since the year the Canucks went to the Stanley Cup Finals. Think about that, Kyle, when you think you got problems. So, potentially there's a deal to be made with Buffalo. I mean, it just seems like they are toiling in mediocrity or sadness forever. Our sad cousins.
Isn't that the team you rip off, though? Like, they're so pathetic. They keep the same GM. They do all those things. It's like, that's probably the team you rip off.
Well, it's funny because they've gotten new teams over the years where they've gone from like Botterill to Kevin Adams, and it just seems to be the same shit in terms of the moves they make.
Yeah, dude. Anywho, another episode of Locked On Canucks. Everyone hit the like button. It really helps the show grow a lot. We're going to be here all summer long talking about weird topics and just, I don't know, just nerding out. Subscribe to the channel and tell your friends about Locked On Canucks, because you really ain't getting this anywhere else. And it's Begsy, it's Bowen. It's all the time. Join the Substack. It's fun. We're going to update it tomorrow. Who knows what we're going to talk about? Maybe some more trade opinions. I feel like we should base our article tomorrow on how to rip off the Buffalo Sabres. Can we do that?
Mm-hmm.
We will. Join the Substack. Hit the links in the bio. Begsy, sign us out.
One love to you and you for tuning in. Whether you're an everydayer, an occasional listener, a first-time listener, or a new subscriber, we love each and every one of you. No matter what time of the year it is, it's always go Canucks go. Kyle and I will be back here tomorrow. I Locked On Canucks. Peace.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.